Hey friends, and welcome to the Adventures of Blink. I am of course Blink, and you can find me on GitHub right here. If you find this content to be useful or helpful or just plain fun, make sure you leave me a like. That way I know that I'm hitting the mark and I'm giving you stuff that you're interested in seeing. And if you're really interested in following along with all the fun we're going to have, make sure you click subscribe. That will ensure that you get updates on any new episodes that are released, and you'll stay up to date with whatever I've got coming out. This season, we're on a DevX deep dive. We're taking a look at common occurrences within the lives of developers, things that happen every day that lead to bad experiences later on, and learning how to fix them. So last week we looked at the phantom dependency. It was one of those moments where everything worked fine on my machine, but when I submitted my code change for a CI build, it failed. And the reason was because I was submitting it to run in a clean environment rather than a polluted environment on my local box. We learned about the importance of being able to check for that. We learned how to do it and how to stay ahead of those kinds of problems so they don't interfere with our progress. So today's episode is called Blink versus the Vibe Commit. This is something I'm sure we've all done if you've done any coding next to an LLM yet. You need a function, you ask an AI to write it. It looked good. It passed the tests. I committed it, and then later I didn't understand what it was that I'd merged. It wasn't broken yet, but it was fragile. So in this episode, I want to talk about what I'm calling the vibe commit. When you merge something mostly because it looks right. Let's look at an example. All right, so what you see here on the screen is some code that I actually vibed. I went out to a language model and I said, hey, I've got this CSV file, and one of the fields in it is a subject line from an email. I want you to give me a function that will extract the date from that subject line. So for instance, if it said something like, remember your appointment on October 17th, I could grab October 17th out of that, and it would be like a flag reminder thing. It's for a scheduling app that I'm building, right? So it's something to be able to turn this text into actionable data points. Now, this is what I got back, and it has some problems that may not show up on the surface. When you first look at it, you think, oh yeah, that'll probably take care of it. But here are the problems that we face when we do this kind of vibe, fire and forget. First of all, it has regular expressions in it that I didn't write. So you can see it's right here. I didn't write that. And this one's fairly small, so it's not horrible. But if we think of this in terms of something that could get larger over time, that could be problematic. A mentor of mine once told me that if you have a problem that you try to solve with regular expressions, you'll just have two problems. Something to keep in mind there. Regex is really complicated, and if it's not something you use constantly, you're liable to make a big mistake. Now, there's something else that concerns me here as I look at this, and that's that there's only one comment anywhere in the vibed answer. So it's sort of assuming inputs. It explains that that's what it's expecting to see. But it doesn't really tell me anything about how it works or why it should. Now, again, this is a very small contrived example. It's 6 lines long. You can probably read this and be like, yeah, I get what that's doing. But it does leave you with the question of how does that work anyway? Which means you now have to do the mental work to get to the point where you understand what the code does. If I were writing this myself, if I were off in isolation, no access to AI, and I just wanted to write this, it might take me longer. But by the time I got done, I would have a very deep understanding of what it was I tried to achieve and know a lot about how it worked. And hopefully I wrote better comments. So let's imagine I vibe this with my favorite copilot, which I actually did, and I just copy, paste, commit, push. I bet my unit test even passes. Because it was likely built on the same kinds of assumptions, just like extract date was. But I've now made a monster, and I'm going to pay for that every time I have to edit this vibe-coded block of code. What happens when I find a text line that says special event on March 15th? My code's going to stab me in the back just like Brutus stabbed Julius Caesar.
Caesar salad. Et tu, Brute? Nope.
What's more, I'm missing an opportunity to make this code more robust by using prepackaged logic. Check this out. Here's a rewritten version of our extract date using the dateutil parser. Just by making these few changes, you can see I'm still at 7 lines of code, and my tests are now much more robust because I'm using a parser to handle all that work for me. It's a library that I know I can trust. I can just import and put it to work on my behalf, and I don't have to think about this anymore. As it turns out, I don't need to manage this with regular expressions at all. The dateutil parser has the ability to find all sorts of date formats within a string, and I don't have to code for it. This is a more defensive way to go about it because I can trust a library that ships with Python. Okay, so let's have a discussion real quick. What was it we actually changed through this experience? Well, in the first iteration, the pure vibe coding, hey, go write this method for me, the AI version worked, but only for one use case. And it gave me no insight into why it worked or where it might break. It pretty much just said, here's your answer, go away. And when I ask the question in a way that says, just give me the thing, that's how it's going to respond. But in the second version, and it might surprise you to know, I actually kind of vibe coded that one too. What I did instead was have a conversation with the model first and say, I want to make sure that I'm being as careful as I can in this. How can I make sure that my code is robust and defensive and protects me from having a bunch of work later on? And after a couple rounds of back and forth, we ended up on a solution that, as you saw, was really robust and took care of a lot of different flavors of that without me having to maintain a lot of code. So it was really important from the perspective that I had the conversation, but I let it know what my goals were in the process. I want to make sure that this is easily maintained as well as succinct. I don't want it to be long and drawn out. I don't want it to just take up a bunch of space. Give me something simple to work with. And I guess this leaves us with a question. Is vibe coding a bad thing? Well, no. Is using a different screwdriver a bad thing? No. It's just a tool. As developers, we write a lot of boilerplate code. Stuff that just takes a long time for us to do. That has to be there because it's how the technology works, and it doesn't necessarily add a bunch of unique value to our app. If vibe coding can get us there faster, absolutely, go right ahead. But when you're thinking about the intricate parts, the logic puzzles that live inside any project, the stuff that makes your app unique or valuable or different, vibe coding can easily become an extremely unstable crutch. It's the kind of thing that will slip out from under you or snap in half at the most inopportune moment. It's okay to use it, but remember that as the human in the loop, you are still the one in control and you are responsible for what happens. So what are Blink's tips and takeaways from this experience? Let's make a quick practical list to work with. First of all, use AI to generate, but always pause to verify. Never just fire and forget. Second, ask the AI to explain what it gave you. Don't just accept it blindly and copy paste and move on. You didn't write this code. Make sure you know exactly how it works before you implement it. Third, add a test, even just one, to lock in the expected behavior. You want to know that whatever you're going to get from this thing is going to do the job correctly. And so the more testing you can do up front, this would be a great place to go look into test-driven development. If you can write the tests that explain the behaviors you want to see and don't want to see, then you can have the vibe-coded blocks of however large they get pass through those tests and you'll know that you're getting the behavior you expect. It's just a way to check behind yourself and clean up. Fourth, make sure any comments you have reflect why something is written the way that it is, especially if that's an unfamiliar way. If you have a really elegant but cryptic one-liner in your app, don't just let it sit there. It's like a time bomb. Make sure that there's a block of comments with it that explain what it's doing and why it's doing that and what you're trying to achieve in that little tiny block of really magical code. That's an important thing, and you may be the person whose sanity you save, 6 months from now when you have to come back and make an edit. Finally, rewrite or simplify if it takes more than a few seconds to reason about what it's doing. And this is also a good practice for you to do, even if you're not vibe coding. If you read through a block of code and go, okay, I need some time to think about what that's doing, it's probably too big. Simplify it, refactor it into smaller steps, rearrange things so that they make more sense, add more comments, whatever you need to do to simplify the understanding of this code in the future. All right, that wraps up episode 5. Folks, we are halfway through the 4th season of The Adventures of Link. We've covered some pretty cool stuff so far, and I hope you're having fun with this. I know I am, and I hope you're also learning from the experience. The halfway mark of this season is going to be a bit of an inflection point for us. For the rest of this season, we're going to explore a common refactoring kata that I discovered called the Gilded Rose. So tune in next week as we start our refactoring journey together. See you next time.